First off, I do concede that gender and sex are different. Even the dictionary is turned against the old way, stating that gender is just a social construct, and to some degree that's true. Some things are considered masculine and feminine quite arbitrarily, and they were deemed that way culturally and not through any objective truth. Take for example attire. A skirt is considered effeminate woman's wear, but that's just something somebody made up and we all adhered to. In Scotland, wearing a skirt, by which I mean a kilt, is considered manly. Makeup is for girls, football is for boys, that kind of shit could change at any time. However, there are aspects of gender and sex that are inextricable. Testosterone and estrogen have powerful effects on your thoughts and behavior. In 2009, Jerry Ann Alexander, professor of psychology at Texas A&M, conducted a study on babies that showed they had a preference for dolls or trucks based on what hormones they had in utero. And in case you think somehow babies were influenced in their decision by society, a different team conducted similar experiments with vervet monkeys and got the same results. Not only that, but the neuroscience of sex reveals that there are variations between male and female brains physically. Females tend to develop verbal centers on both hemispheres of the brain before males. The hippocampus is usually larger in women, whereas the amygdala is larger in men. The cortical mantle is thicker in women, and they tend to have a higher ratio of grey to white matter. Both sexes have similar hormones, but in vastly different ratios. They are both chemically and structurally unique, although more similar than dissimilar overall, so despite being different, neither is inferior. You can find out more by checking out the work of Dr. Apostolos Georgopoulos, this guy. And being a sexually dimorphic species, we also have differences in our skeletal structure. It's commonly known that women tend to have wider hips and men tend to have wider shoulders. So to claim that biological sex doesn't exist at all is ludicrous and unfounded propaganda. And to claim that there is no inherent link between sex and gender is a little bit dishonest. Then there's the issue of gender dysphoria. To me, transgender makes sense. You're a man trapped in a woman's body or vice versa. This is logically sound and medically established. But to claim you have no gender at all is fucking absurd. Besides, we already had a word for non-binary. It was androgynous. Or to claim that there's 58 new genders, all of which are redundant, is fucking stupid. The claim is often that someone doesn't feel like the gender they're seen as, or that they don't identify with either gender. They do not suffer from dysphoria, they simply don't identify with the stereotypical definitions of masculinity or femininity. But being an effeminate man doesn't make you a woman, or something in between. It just means you're an effeminate man. You don't suddenly have no gender simply because you don't fit neatly into a preconceived notion of manhood or womanhood, notions that they somehow deny and adhere to simultaneously. I don't see why being an effeminate man or a masculine woman suddenly makes you a whole new gender. Everyone has varying degrees of masculinity and femininity, and that in no way denotes a departure from the gender associated with your sex. It comes across as somewhat hypocritical, or at least inconsistent, because they'll claim that gender is a social construct that doesn't exist, but at the same time claim that they're not a male or a female based on the same cliché definitions they claimed are arbitrary and don't exist. Like the other day, I saw a non-binary person online claiming they wanted to be called Sarah, but their school teacher kept calling Sarah by the birth name George. Now, if there's no such thing as gender or sex, why can't you be a woman named George? If gender and sex aren't real, then why would you still believe in gender-specific names? I mean, I'll call you whatever the fuck you want, no skin off my back, no reason to be a dick about it like the teacher in this anecdote, but here in Canada, thanks to Bill C-16, it could be potentially considered a hate crime if you don't, and that strikes me as a bit over the top in controlling people's language. I think the whole non-binary movement is downplaying the seriousness of the plight of actual transgendered people. A gender spectrum is unnecessary if we simply normalize androgyny. There's no reason to identify as non-binary if all behaviors are considered gender-neutral, and I have no problem with that. I agree that there's no good reason why some things are for boys and some things are for girls. I mean, everyone should be able to express themselves as they see fit, free of antagonism. I suspect many of the proponents are snowflakes jumping on a trend that makes them feel unique, or if you just want to virtue signal and portray yourself as a progressive hero like Bill Nye. And here's where we come to the public, who are even more absurd. They're afraid of transgendered people using their washroom, which they've been using this entire fucking time without anybody noticing until it became a news story. They claim that perverts will use the bathroom access to molest kids. Well, I guess it slipped their fucking mind that perverts already molest kids in bathrooms. The sign on the door isn't a law, it's just a suggestion. And since there is no bathroom police, anybody could walk in and molest your kid right now. And if you look at the statistics, it's almost always a regular old cisgendered male pederast for whom you wouldn't bat an eyelash as you went into the washroom. Transgendered people make up an infinitesimal percentage of the population, which means they're not likely to be a problem, and they are in the most need of protection from the tyranny of the majority. I think we all know the real reason people are putting up a resistance. I think it's weird and icky, so you can't do it! Which is a fucking fascist mentality if I ever heard one. It's a free country, asshole. People like you are the reason why I get busted smoking weed outside. Transgendered people don't tell you where you can pee, so why the fuck do you get the right to tell them?